right, good morning, everyone. We are live today, and we got a good group of guys on today. So we got new guest on. We got Adam Glee from in the Pittsburgh market. We'll let him introduce himself shortly. But we got return guests Tony, Fireman Flip, and Jeremy Taggart. So morning, fellas.
Morning.
Morning.
Yeah. So
Morning.
let's
Morning.
have Adam quickly kind of give my audience a little 60-second spiel on who he is and maybe where he invests and what does he invest in.
Hi, I'm Adam. I'm a real estate agent at Deacon Hoover Real Estate in Pittsburgh. And I started off, I had a retail job in corporate, and I started buying rental properties. And my agent at the time told me I should get my real estate license because it'd be easier to buy rental properties. And then he ended up being my broker, and I just kept buying rental properties. And eventually it was too hard being a retail store manager and being a real estate agent. So I quit the corporate job, and that was in 2020. And I've been a full-time real estate agent ever since, and I keep buying properties. I've done a bunch of house hacks. I mainly do burr properties now. I've been trying to focus on that. I used to buy multifamilies, but that's been much more challenging. I realize it's easier to do a burr deal now to try and keep using the same money over instead of saving up for a down payment and then using all that to buy a property. And that's kind of where I'm at. And I have probably 23 properties now, which is like 47 units. And I buy all mostly in the South Hills. That's where I live, in the south side of Pittsburgh. So everything in the south mostly.
Nice. And then I think before we went live, you kind of were touching on you also do Airbnbs with some of your units.
I have 2 Airbnbs. I live in a multifamily that I'm house hacking, and I have 2 Airbnbs above me in the south side. The prices of real estate's pretty expensive in this neighborhood, and the cash flow doesn't really work on a long-term rental. So I wanted to try short-term just to try and I really was just taking a chance, and I knew that I had to live somewhere. So I live in this building to supplement my mortgage, I guess, or to make it more affordable to live here. And it's been working out. I mean, I make more money than I would have on a long-term rental. And now I have some Airbnb experience.
All right. So anyone tuning in, I know a lot of you are going to have questions about Airbnb and the Pittsburgh market. But quick question though. So have you passed Jeremy in the amount of house hacks, or is Jeremy still the leader in that sense?
He probably has more than me. Yeah. I mean, I think I did it 3 times, and I lived in 2 of my single families too. But I wouldn't really call those house hacks. And the first house I ever bought, that was before I was even in real estate. I just bought a house, not even knowing what I was doing.
All right.
And I think James was like 6 or 7, right?
7 of them. 7.
That's
yeah. My one right now is in Southside too. So me and Gleaver in the same neighborhood.
Yeah, we live pretty close to one another.
All right, so I put Jeremy Taggart Team PGH's Instagram link in the chat, and also Adam Gleave's Instagram page and his email. So if you want to connect with them, and also Tony's Instagram page, he's trying to grow it back after getting hacked. But Tony, it's been a little bit while. So why don't you fill everyone in what you're doing and what you're seeing in your market, and which market is that also?
For sure. I'm in a Cincinnati, Ohio area, kind of the suburbs of Cincinnati. Kind of heavily focused right now on affordable housing. I'm kind of seeing the wave now. I'm starting to see more and more real estate influencers talk about affordable housing, shared housing. So I'm that's kind of my focus. Right now we deal mostly with homeless people who were homeless at one point, facing homelessness. But we're actually in the process of getting certified to do youth and all kind of affordable housing and true group homes. So we'll kind of right now doing the shared living, and then we'll kind of focus now heavily on the group home model is kind of our main focus right now. So we've kind of stepped back from actually buying right now as we're trying to kind of perfect that process, which is a different, I mean, that's a different story in itself, just the process and how hard it is and why it is what it is with these youth and older gentlemen who were in need of housing. That the cities and the different counties just make it so hard to do it. But nevertheless, it has been done, so that means that it can be done. It's just a process of trying to figure out, zoning and all that different things. But that's our main focus right now, and I'm kind of hyper focused on that right now. And so everything else right now is kind of on the back burner. We're still looking for deals. It's just right now we're getting a lot of out of state investors. California specifically are coming, snatching up these properties pretty heavy. As a lot of times I hear that what they would pay for a down payment is what they can actually get a property for here. So we're heavy competition right now, and we still got a lot of wish pricing right now for a lot of like the on market stuff. People are just wish pricing. You're seeing so many pricing cuts right now. So kind of doing the Zuber method and just really making sure I know my market, and when things hit where I think it's reasonable, then just putting in offers right now.
Awesome, and we'll dig into also kind of some of your social media posts recently, maybe your feelings on the affordable housing and the situations and the struggles challenges that you might be facing right now. But Jeremy, like I said, you're kind of a regular. I love talking about the Pittsburgh market. That's where I invest, and I think people are starting to really pivot towards that market, and even Ohio, because they're a little more affordable. But what are you kind of seeing currently, in the market right now? Especially, is there talks of people waiting for maybe rate cuts and whatnot?
I think it's the same thing here. There's so much out of state investment that it's keeping the demand high on investment properties, whether it be multifamily or fixer upper properties. So that's kind of different than the residential market. So it's almost like two different markets, but the similarities they do share is like he said, there's a lot of wish pricing still here, where at the end of the day, in-state, out-of-state residential multifamily, when interest rates are high for a long period of time, it's going to decrease demand. So anybody that's trying to get the prices they might have got when rates were 3%, they're sitting on the market. So across the board, inventory is higher than it was, which is causing prices to kind of just stay flat-ish for the most part. But the demand is keeping them flat. Whereas if there wasn't this out-of-state demand, or the fact that there's residential demand just because it's an affordable market, that's keeping the prices flat rather than some of these more frothy markets where we're seeing price decreases. So it's kind of stuff that's getting priced well where it should be. It's going quick because there is demand. If it's priced too high, it's sitting, causing inventory to go up. So there's not a ton of in between. It's kind of either one or the other for the most part, it seems, until you start getting some price drops on the ones that were just priced too high to begin with.
So Adam, like for you, what are you seeing? I guess do you deal with a lot of out-of-state investors also too?
I do, yeah. I mean, I deal with people all over the place. There are a lot of Californians. I do get a lot of people in Israel. I got some buyers in France too that I like to deal with. They're cool. I mean, but like you were saying, I mean, what they could pay for a down payment, they could get a whole house here. I mean, it doesn't even come close to cash flowing where they are, but here it's like you can still cash flow on these properties.
What are some of the challenges? Because I know Jeremy's touched on it before, Tony's touched on it, but what do you see from like people investing out of state, coming towards Pittsburgh? They think housing is cheaper and whatnot, like you're saying. But what are some mistakes that out of state investors might make?
Maybe not doing the research. Maybe not. The thing with it is like dealing with contractors is extra difficult when you're out of town because you can't see what's going on all the time. And sometimes you think a contractor's like doing the right thing on your property, and it's not really getting done all the time. So it's tough unless you have someone there like making sure the project's really getting done. You can really put yourself in a bad spot because it's tough even getting some contractors to get the completion to 100%. They always leave it at like 95%. So sometimes that's an issue. So the big thing with out-of-state people are having good contractors and reliable people here that they can count on. And I try and bridge the gap there with my buyers a little bit and my sellers. But even that's tough a little bit. You're getting contractors to finish.
So Tony, like in your market, I know like you were saying, you're kind of dealing with some more affordable housing and whatnot. It's like, how would you describe or what does affordable housing mean in your market?
So for us, it's kind of that rent ratios. Right now, rents are in Cincinnati. I think the last couple year has been actually like in the top 5 rent growth in the country. So the rents are just going through the roof. So like just where I am a fireman at, it's like one of those areas where literally street to street is so different. You've got some really rough areas. Our station there is super busy, but then literally a couple streets over, you've got some 500, 600, 700,000 homes, but then you've got some really rough areas, and that housing affordability. For instance, like we've got a couple of our apartment buildings that are rougher part buildings. I mean, they're getting 1,500, 1,600 for a 2-bedroom sometimes, just in those rough areas because of the housing affordability, and they can get it. And then once a couple landlords get it, I mean, they're just again raising those rents, and then once they're getting it, and then it's just kind of a domino effect. So for us, it's just that rent ratio. And that's why, again, we're kind of heavy on that shared living, as we're able to then make the rents affordable because they're renting a room with utilities versus, renting a 1-bedroom, and then you still having utilities that fluctuate. And then you have that issue where, yes, 1 month is affordable, but then 2 months down the road, it's not affordable because maybe it's the summer and then you're running, the AC or the AC units. So we kind of cut down on that, where they know exactly what their rents are going to be, because everything is included. So for us, it's just that rent is what we call kind of that affordability. And I think it's because it's such a buzzword right now. I don't really think we've really defined what affordable is, because obviously it's area to area, right? Our area affordable versus area in Pittsburgh or area in California is going to be totally different. So I think that's one of the big things that we got to do better is, really hone it down. Like, what does that mean? What does that like true affordability means for that instance? Because again, we can talk about affordability, but my affordability versus your affordability is going to be kind of two different things, and it's going to mean different when it comes to out-of-state investors. That's what we see. We get a lot of out-of-state investors in our area because of the rents, but then again, the issues they have is it's a super rough area. So a lot of break-ins when they're doing renovations, a lot of issues where the clientele they're dealing with. So we get dispatched a lot for different things, and you can tell they're just so frustrated because they thought it was going to be something totally different, but because they seen the rents and the price point, they jump in not really knowing that area.
We'll dig into maybe some myths that people think about affordable housing and whatnot. And one thing myth is like Flavio. He's always talking about how you need a bulletproof vest to invest in markets like Pittsburgh and Ohio and whatnot. So he's heard Jeremy's kind of stance or take on that. So I want to hear kind of from Adam about what's his thoughts on is it should people be wary of investing in markets like Pittsburgh? Like, do they need a bulletproof vest to walk around the neighborhoods to see what these neighborhoods look like?
No, I don't think so at all. I don't feel unsafe in any of the neighborhoods I go into. And like he was just saying, I mean, it varies street by street. So you could be on a nice street and then just 2 streets over, it looks like a war zone and there's blighted houses, and you deal with that a lot. But like, I don't really feel unsafe ever. Maybe if it was like in the middle of the night, yeah, I'd be worried walking around in some of those neighborhoods, but never during the day. That stuff doesn't really bother me. I mean, you just have to, pay attention to what you're doing, I suppose. But that's kind of where the deals are sometimes too, and it just forces you to invest in different areas that you wouldn't have considered before. And now it's like I'm going all over the place. When there were other areas I wouldn't have thought about going into, but now I realize they're not that scary, I guess. And as like the housing value goes up everywhere, it's like it's getting different people to go in there, and it's changing those neighborhoods, and I don't feel like they're unsafe anymore. You know what I'm saying? It's like everything is being developed over here.
A lot of them are gentrifying as prices get expensive in the other neighborhoods. It's just spilling outwards pretty much.
So Jeremy, I kind of want to touch on, a lot of people seeing the news about like the economy, people struggling, right? Inflation going up and whatnot. Do you see that in Pittsburgh, for example? Like, do you think people, income wise, it's getting rough out there for them in your market?
I haven't seen it with tenants yet, even in the working class neighborhoods. I think it's because Pittsburgh in particular, we have pretty healthy incomes compared to the rent amounts. So people aren't strapped from that standpoint. Whereas like in California, I think they say like the average rent amount compared to your income is like over 50% or something crazy. Here, like when we're screening tenants, we want their rent amount to be less than 33% of what they make, basically. And that's the case in a lot of neighborhoods here. You're well below that mark. So there's slack between the point of where they're at now and what would be considered unaffordable, to the point where they would be close to not being able to pay it. So I think the fact there's that gap here, I haven't seen it yet. It's probably more relevant in more expensive markets where they are living life on the edge, so to speak, financially, where any sort of inflation or anything with the economy, they lose their job, they're kind of screwed. They don't have a lot of slack with that. So here it's a little bit different.
Would you say that's the case also, Tony, for Ohio or the market that you're in?
Honestly, I would say a lot of markets. I think we're naive if we don't think that majority of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, meaning their credit card bills are they're living on their credit cards, right? They're putting things that they would normally not put on their groceries. Daily things are going on credit cards, so they're just one injury, one missed check away from things kind of spiraling is what we see quite a bit as we get to talk to people, as our jobs and just the stress level because of money and how they struggle with just day-to-day things. So I would say definitely, I mean, majority of Americans, I think, are strapped, especially in our area. I think, again, with just the rents increases, you get where you put something on and you get 20, 25 people that apply for for that particular property because of, hey, my landlord came in and he's going to raise the rent by $500. So I'm seeing a lot of that as I talk to more investors, where it's just getting out of hand, where again people are so strapped there, putting everything on a credit card, things that they wouldn't normally put on there.
All right, I want to say a quick good morning to people tuning in. We got old guy REI Frank. He's in California. Yeah, he says he is a contractor, but he says contractors do stink, I think, referring to what Adam was talking about. Max must be working. He's in Cortez, Colorado, looks like today. So he works on helicopters and stuff. So I think he's busy with the brush fire season going on. Joe V's tuning in. I saw some J6 in New Jersey. Jeremy, I was telling Adam about the event that Jack will be throwing in early September. September meetup in Pittsburgh, September 5th through the 7th. J6 is one of those individuals going to be coming down from New Jersey, wants to pick your guys' brains about the market. And Tony, I don't know if you heard about that, if you're available to come on by from Ohio. But Jack is throwing a Pittsburgh ORAT meetup early September.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's in school, so go check
Okay.
it out. It's going to be cool. But like I said, there is Jeremy's Instagram page, Adam's Instagram page, Adam's email if you want to connect with them. Tony's page. I also put Jeremy's interview on Bigger Pockets, so go check that out if you haven't yet. Go comment on that and tell them doing a great job out there. But yeah, so Tony, like, maybe what is a myth that people might have with like the people that are on, or affordable housing, I guess, in a sense? Is there misconceptions out there?
I think again, I think it's twofold. I think it's so broad, right? Like we hear one or two stories from one investor, and maybe we not have not even dealt with that, but then we hear that story and kind of roll with that. I think it's all in your systems and processes, and this is just me talking to other people and realizing like the more that I'm involved with that process and getting those good people. I think that's one of the biggest myths I get, that they're going to just totally tear your property up. I think it goes twofold. I think you have that, but I also think you have that person who is, again, like we grew up where if we didn't have affordable housing, Lord knows where we would be. So you have those opportunities to then give back. So we really focus on the person and not person, process, and systems versus everything as a broad. So we really focus on getting to know that person, making sure that they are who they say they are. We follow up, we do our home interviews. We do all these things to try to circumvent, any issues we would have where they would just totally destroy our property, especially as, again, we're dealing with these mostly single room rentals. We have a little bit more leeway. And that's one of the reasons why I actually went to the single room rental, as we have more eyes on the property. So it's not going to be a 2, 3, 4, 5 month before we actually see eyes on the property. So when something happens, we're able to fix it right then and there, because usually once a week we've got somebody getting eyes on property. Once a month we've got someone getting eyes on the actual room. So again, we kind of circumvent a lot of the issues that arise from what people consider that myth of affordable housing.
Adam, like I said, I know you, like you said, your Airbnbs and whatnot, and Tony kind of touched on, a lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck out there. Is Airbnb still a successful model, you think, in the Pittsburgh market right now?
I'm doing okay with it. I do well in the summertime. So, I mean, these Airbnbs are booked every weekend, like no matter what. And in the summertime, people book during the week. But in the wintertime and in the colder months, it's like it's harder to fill people in during the week. And that's where it's challenging. I mean, I'm in a nice neighborhood near the touristy type areas, near colleges and the hospitals. So I'm just fortunate to be where I'm at, really. But I don't know how it would be in other spots, really. I think I'm just in a good spot to have the Airbnb. But overall, I mean, I think it does well where I'm at here.
Roughly, I know you're not managing them yourselves or handling them yourselves. What is the fee structure that you're paying to your manager for the short-term rentals?
They gave me a deal in the beginning. I pay them 15% because I live in the building and I'm able to like help out a little bit with like the supplies, and I can go upstairs if I have to. I know they charge other people more than they charge me just because I live on site. And we have a relationship before then too. So I knew them before I started getting into Airbnb. And that just, I mean, they gave me, I guess, a deal, if you want to say, but part of it's because I live downstairs.
Oh, I mean, but it's still, if you're giving 15% and still, being profitable, I mean, that's still, it must be working, still yet in that market. Um, but Joe, so Tony, as you can probably tell, Joe is one of those individuals that couldn't pass the fire exam, and
That's
he was
it.
a police officer. And he is saying yes, good idea from a firefighter. Who would have thought? So yes, Joe was a police officer, but now he does property management
Okay.
in Wisconsin. So he's a super good guy though. But hey, Joe Farrell's tuning in. So if anyone needs any lending, go reach out to Joe. I'll put his channel in the chat right after this. But yeah, so Jeremy, like, I mean, a lot of people, like I said, in our community is pivoting. A lot of them looking at the Pittsburgh market. I think Jack's event's going to be great for a lot of people to meet you folks in person. See some of the areas. What do you have on, I guess, planned for maybe that event? Do you have any areas specifically you're going to try to show them and whatnot?
I haven't talked to Jack about it yet. TBD, I guess. We should probably figure that out soon.
Well, he gave us a whole breakdown of it already, but you are probably not. I don't know, but I know you're showing some areas. So I think you're
Maybe
gonna
he'll just slot me in.
yeah.
Jeremy, I got a question. How do you guys feel? Obviously, with you got all these people that are now wanting your marketing. Like, how do you feel personally? I know sometimes I think that one of the cool things about real estate is how understanding and welcoming people is outside of real estate. The things that you guys are doing just seems so out of the ordinary, bringing people into your kind of area and showing them around, and it's like these are going to be people that's going to be competition. Like, how do you feel about that? Is that difficult for you, or is that something you just kind of used to?
Yeah, it's each and every year, I would say the percentage of clients that are local versus out of state has probably went up like maybe 5% since I started in 2018. So like it was a majority local clients back then, but now it's a majority out of state clients. So I've kind of made it to the point where I try to keep the agent thing the priority because that's the active income source. And then my investing is I've almost kind of even changed my investing to the point where I'm going where the masses aren't, so to speak. So like heavy value add stuff, like Adam was saying, some neighborhoods that out of staters might not want to go in. No, but the nicer pockets of them, because like some people might write off an entire neighborhood, but even the rougher ish neighborhoods here have nice pockets. So focusing on that, or just like higher price properties that aren't necessarily cash flow properties that out of state investors are wanting, but they're in great areas. So just using that to keep the two separate as much as I can without it interfering with each other while keeping the agent thing the priority, I guess, is kind of how I've navigated it from the beginning to avoid the competition, so to speak, when it comes to potentially running into issues with stuff like that. So just learning how to navigate it as we go, basically.
Adam, how do you navigate something like this, where you and Jeremy, both agents, investors in the same market, working, I guess, technically for the same brokerage, but on separate teams? I mean, is that a challenge for you folks? I mean, I was kind of surprised Jeremy invited someone else from kind of a maybe competitive team onto the channel. So how does that work for you folks?
It's good competition.
Yeah, I feel like there's plenty of business to go around. I don't really think it affects me that much. In fact, it's like I like talking to Jeremy to share ideas, and like it gives me some like sort of drive. I like being competitive, and I like looking at rankers and seeing what they're doing. So it like fuels me almost seeing what they're doing because I know they're getting it done. So I mean, I like the competition. I like that they're out here doing the same thing. I know that it's like I have someone I can like bitch to sometimes and like vent about stuff because I'm dealing with like crap all day long, really. I mean, it's not all fun and games. There's a lot of like tough times sometimes, and it's a lot of stress. But to know that other people are going through the same thing, it helps me get through the stuff I'm dealing with, really. Because I know he's dealing with the same sort of things. I mean, we all are, you
Well,
know.
I'm not sure how many teams are under Alex Deacon or how many agents he has, or Deacon Hoover, I should say. But I would say usually
Yeah.
it's Jeremy's team, or the team that you're with is usually when I see the monthly leaders or winners posted on Deacon Hoover. So you two are probably your two teams are the ones that are probably competing with each other most that I see on your guys' social media platforms.
It's healthy competition.
It is. There's a lot to go around. There's plenty
Yeah, that's
here.
the
I mean,
thing
there's
with
a lot of
Pittsburgh.
opportunities. Yeah, I know. People ask me if I invest other places, and it's like I don't feel like I have to because there's so much here to do. It's like I'm so busy with what we have. It's like I don't need to go out of this market. It does have me in different places I never would have thought I'd be investing in the beginning. Because originally, I know my original distance, the maximum I wanted to travel was 15 minutes from where I live, but now I'm at like a half hour.
Clairton.
So, yeah, I buy houses in Clairton now, and I never would have thought because if you listen to what everybody else says, everybody talks down on Clairton, but I'm out there making Clairton work, and I've been buying properties
Wasn't there a
out
big
there.
big
And
explosion?
Yesterday.
there
Yeah.
was a big president.
Yeah, I
That was
saw that.
crazy.
Steel mill or whatever.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Oh, I know. Tony, are you gonna be at the one rental at a time event in February?
That's what I'm working through that right now. I was just talking to the wife yesterday. I'm planning on trying to make it for sure. 14th and 15th, I think it was.
Yes. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, Valentine's Day is Saturday. Zuba's still gonna roll with it, but it's President's Day weekend, so you don't have to rush back to work for people to have the Monday through Friday schedule. People, I've already mentioned to people. It looks like somebody from Taggart Team PGA will be there. Not sure who yet. Jeremy or Liam, hopefully, one of them will be there. Alex from Deacon Hoover said he'll be there, so Alex is down to be there. So Alex will be attending. So those of you that are interested in the Pittsburgh market and want to know more about it or meet them face to face, hopefully you guys can meet up in Vegas. Hey, Josh is tuning in. What's up, man? Yeah. So maybe let's see Tony. So what's on the horizon for you? Are you looking to hopefully have rate cuts, or what do you think is going to happen if they do start cutting rates in your market?
Yeah, it'd be a frenzy for sure. I'm kind of I've not looked at much news. It's been terrible just hearing guys. Obviously, at the firehouse, these guys, everybody's Monday night quarterback and everything, and so I'm kind of staying away from news. And my thing is like my head is just down, and I'm continuing to operate like I have been. And then if they do, more the merrier. If they don't, again, I'm kind of staying focused in what I'm doing. As I know me, I'm bad about like being in different areas and squirreling, what they call, where I see a shiny object. So this year, the rest of this year, I'm like, hey, I'm staying focused on kind of what I'm doing, my task, and I'll pivot when needs be. But other than that, I'm not worried about the any cuts. I'm not worried about any of that. I'm staying focused on the affordable because I see the writing on the wall. I mean, you're starting to see like Jermaine Dimgit. I mean, you're starting to see all these guys, the pace, like they're talking about affordable housing. They're talking about shared housing. They're talking about these things. And they've got way more information and access to, valuable data than I do. So if I'm seeing it on my end and I'm hearing more and more of the influencers talking about it, I know it's here. I know it's here to stay. So I've just got to kind of stay focused and be the leader in my area with that. So once it do pops, then I'm hopefully, now I'm able to do the things that I want to do and having people kind of come to me as on the consultant side. If I do it right, I've got an opportunity. So I just got to kind of stay focused.
You also mentioned Pace Morby, and I do want to remind everyone Pace is going to be one of the keynote speakers at the event in February. So I definitely would recommend getting your tickets as soon as possible because I think once the sub 2 community finds out that Pace will be speaking for $300, basically, that tickets are going to sell pretty quick. So definitely look into getting your tickets early. Adam, I know, before we went live, you kind of touched on the burst strategy is kind of or your strategy in a sense. I think a lot of markets, maybe the burst strategy is getting a little bit more difficult, more challenging to do. Do you see that still working in Pittsburgh though?
It does. It's definitely more challenging. I feel like a lot of people are looking at exactly the same stuff we are, and so it's like even the wholesalers are getting a ton of attention where that used to be like the place you go to find deals. But now there's like so many people looking at all these wholesale deals. So I think if you get into this stuff and you're trying to do a burr project, I mean, the numbers don't always work out perfectly. So you just have to be prepared to leave some money in the deal still. And it just is what it is. But even if you're buying a house and you leave like $5,000 in the deal, I mean, the return on that is still phenomenal, even if you left 5,000 in there. And it's not infinite, but I mean, still, I would count that as a win. Even if look, I have one and I have an appraisal on Friday and I'm nervous that it's not going to appraise where I need to. And I went over probably like $6,000 on my renovations just because I had to bring in another contractor to finish what the first guy couldn't do, kind of like what I was touching on before. And that put me over budget. And I'm like nervous about the quality. But I'm like, if it comes in low, I might be sitting and leaving 15,000 in the deal. Where I mean, I'm sitting here like worried about that and complaining. But at the end of the day, if I leave 15,000 in that deal, I just bought a fully renovated house. We did everything, and I should be able to rent that for 1,700 around there a month. So I still would. I mean, I would count that as a win, really. Even though I don't want to leave that much in there, I mean, that like takes away some of my income to roll into the next one. But, that's just what it is. I still think there's opportunity here, but you do have to try and move into those neighborhoods that, aren't as nice, I guess, typically. It has me in like C and D neighborhoods a lot more, honestly.
I know you guys are both on, you have your own separate teams that you guys are working with, but like Jeremy, do you folks kind of use the same contractors, you would say, or do you guys have kind of your own different vendors you guys are working with?
I think different. We kind of have like,
I don't think we really share anybody.
yeah, we have like 3 to 5 guys we primarily rotate among between like me, the guys on my team, and clients, just that we know we've worked with them before, and depending on who's available, really, they're all kind of similar from pricing and quality and whatnot. It's just having a Rolodex of contractors for jobs for us and clients.
All right, that's good to know. Yeah, I got to get Adam's contact list too then after this.
That's kind of the thing here with this. The contractors are the most pivotal piece because without them, I can't do anything. I'm not handy. I don't know how to fix anything. I don't even have tools. So I rely on them heavily. And like I'm at this point now where I don't really trust to bring new people on because I don't know what their quality is going to be. And I'm afraid to bring in new people in a way too, because I don't want people coming around trying to give me quote unquote free estimates because a lot of people are just too expensive and you can't even work with them anyways. And then like I have this thing where I have to like keep trying to buy properties so that I always have a new project for new contractors or my existing contractors to work on because I need them to keep working with me. So it forces me to like still be out there trying to buy new houses where I'm like at this point where it's tough because it's like not everything works on paper and like it makes me nervous or I'm like trying to basically try to buy houses that I'm like not in love with, but I just need to buy something just to keep the contractors busy so that there's a new house for them to work on when they're done with the one they're on. Because I don't want them going somewhere else and working with anybody else. And it's tough, with this, with that.
So Jeremy, let's say we'll come around to all of you for this, but Jeremy first. Let's say, what are you watching most closely for the rest of 2025? Would it be interest rates, maybe job growth, housing supply in your area? Is there something that you're kind of keying on to kind of see how the market reacts?
Interest rates is a big one. They just recently kind of started ticking down, but I feel like we need to get closer to 6% to see a significant change on the demand side from interest rates. And then supply is probably the biggest thing in new listings in terms of just residential and multifamily. That's the biggest thing I would say right now to keep an eye on because it's been increasing, but also the new listings have started to go down. So it's been interesting to see how that's all played out because it's really driven by supply. I think demand's fairly steady for the most part. The supply side is the biggest driver. How much that's going to continue to go up or not, and interest rates more dictate the demand side. So yeah, that's the stuff that I kind of keep an eye on to get ahead of the market, so to speak. The general public doesn't really know until it starts to make headlines, like mass headlines and everything. I think when rates as a whole decrease, which I think we're close to in terms of year over year price growth, I think that's when it's going to make it to the masses. But if you keep an eye on that data up front, you can kind of get ahead of it to see where the market might go to, or even when we're essentially at a bottom, which I think we're maybe kind of close to, assuming interest rates go down next year if Trump gets his way. So just keeping an eye on all that, I think, keeps you ahead of things.
What about you, Tony? Is there something that you're kind of keying on in your market or kind of paying attention to closely?
How you gonna have me come after that, man? The way he just put that, ain't nothing more I can say from that, man. He just laid that out so elegantly.
All right, okay. So
Yeah,
we'll go to kind of Joe V's point of what Zuber touches on. So if rates did come down to 5.99, then what do you think that would do for your market or your
yeah.
strategies?
I think so. It will definitely increase supply. Just talking to a lot of the local, as I'm kind of getting a little bit more out in the open as far as doing some driving for dollars and things like that. I think the more and more people feel like if it does drop, then they're willing to then either put their house on market or move. I think we've got a lot of what they call like that. Rake lot buyer where again like instead of like normal people that would have moved, they're just making do with what they have. So instead of they're sharing rooms with the kids because they can't justify leaving a 2% 3% interest rate for 8% 7% on the buy side. So I feel like it definitely would be an increase in supply heavily. Obviously I think that most of them are going to be that still that wish price supply. So I think you kind of get that back and forth with that if you do get supply, but then it's wish pricing. Does it really help you as an investor?
Adam, any thoughts on that? Is there anything you're kind of keying on to see what happens for the end of 2025, I guess?
I mean, you guys kind of touched on a lot of that. Yeah, I think if the interest rates go down, maybe that will see a surge in inventory come on the market, especially with residential buyers too, because they know that they could get a new house with a lower interest rate. Kind of like they're like stuck with their low interest rate they have. Now they don't want to sell that low interest rate to just buy a house that's more expensive. Or, I mean, I guess I've been thinking it's like sellers will have to lower their prices at some point, but they're reluctant to do that. So, like, it just seems like inventory piles up a bit here right now. And it's like, well, there's a lot of houses that come on the market that don't make sense as investments just because. And it's like the sellers don't want to lower their price to where it does make sense.
And they just sit there.
And that's just what it is. That's yeah, they just sit there, really. And then you got to send them low offers.
And then they get mad when you do that.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, it doesn't make sense. And it's like, the thing is, it's like, especially with like multifamilies, people are putting properties on the market and they might have bought them 10 years ago, or they don't have a payment, and out of town buyers like don't understand why they're so expensive. And the numbers don't work. Well, it's like the seller is like collecting rent and the rents are low, but they may not have a payment or the payment's low. And if the new buyer buys it, they're buying it at a current value with those rents, and it's like they're way low. So anybody who's buying a property with tenants, there's a period of time that they have to stabilize it and get the rents up, and they basically have to raise the rent on everybody or kick everybody out, renovate, and then try and re-rent it at the newer market rates now, rents, to make the numbers make sense. So if you buy a multifamily, sometimes all that takes like a year for it to really start making sense on paper again. And not everybody's ready for that too. People are buying.
Yeah, they want it to cash flow right now. They aren't looking at what it could be.
Well, I think that's why I like these kind of lower price point markets too. Just for it gives you, when you're trying to get it stabilized, that those mortgage payments aren't impacting you as much if you have these vacancies, right? Because if if you're investing in California or even Hawaii, right, and you have time, you need time to stabilize it, or like you're saying, Adam, get the rents up to a certain rate, right? That mortgage is so much higher out here. It's impacting you a lot more, monthly, right?
Right.
But Tony, like I said, we'll definitely get into it. So like your Facebook, some of your social media posts recently, it sounds like there's I wouldn't say struggles that you're going through, but I definitely see you putting a little more feeling out there as far as maybe some challenges that you've encountered. So maybe kind of touch on that a little bit, what you're seeing.
Yeah, I without trying to get too political or just too ingrained. I think we're kind of at a pivotal point where people think a lot of things don't affect them when it comes to homelessness, housing affordability, but it truly does, because if we're talking about, hey, we're cutting these programs, we're cutting all this, but then we don't give a solution for the people that we're saying we're cutting these programs. I think we kind of then I see them on the back end of a lot of the issues. So the earlier phases of school, and just how I feel about education, and just jobs and all these different things that we talk about. I see them once they get to a point where they're 40, 50, and they're kind of done with work, and they're done. They're living on the system, and they're truly on the system, and they're just taking so many resources from the system. I'm just struggling with that part, because I'll then hear, maybe friends and things like that say they don't care about that. And I'm like, you understand how much money we're putting into these systems for us not to care? Like, and we can't keep operating the same that we have been, because we put I mean, we've got guys right now that are on lifetime vouchers, and they'll have free rent for the rest of their life. And they're able bodies. Some of them are able bodies, but because they've got, the mental health, they've got all these issues, they will get rent paid, and food stamps and things like that for the rest of their life. So it's really trying to catch them before they reach that point. And for me, without education, without a good career, not a job, we've got plenty of jobs. Career meaning when you get a retirement, you're getting bonuses, you're getting increase in payment and things like that. Until we all care about that, we'll continue to have all these people taken away from the pot.
Jeremy, we touched on, Pittsburgh being like an affordable market and whatnot. And like you said, I think, what, 7, 8 house hacks you've done. Do you see, a lot of people out there in kind of your area, younger people, younger folks, kind of, upset at the cost of things, even though, like I said, from us looking outside to Pittsburgh, Ohio, it looks affordable. But do you see the younger folks in your area, and you're young too, but I mean, younger than you, like people, are they struggling, you think, out there? Do they see housing as being unaffordable for them?
It's interesting. We actually were talking about this not long ago, but the people in their early 20s now, we aren't seeing as many house hackers, which is interesting, especially with house hacking being mainstream now. So that's something it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But it's almost like people have just kind of lost interest or just given up because they say it's so expensive. It's kind of a mindset as a whole, I would say. But the ones we are seeing house hacking a lot are just non-investors. So people that maybe can't afford a single family house in the neighborhood they want to live in now, they're buying multifamilies just because they're comparing it to what they would pay in rent, or what they would pay to buy a single family house in the same neighborhood. So they're not looking at it as an investment property. So that's been interesting to see that uptick happen. And then I think it's not necessarily young people, but just local investors are definitely getting upset with the out-of-state investors coming in and driving up the prices on the investment properties. So that's been kind of progressively getting worse as that has happened, and the local perception and what local investors were used to is now no longer. So them adjusting to that as well, the new market and prices going up, has been an interesting dynamic to kind of see happen over time as well.
I was also going to bring up, and maybe Adam might have a thought on this too, but I'm not sure if he invests in other asset classes or whatnot. But Nick is tuning in. He also has a new YouTube channel. He's part of the One Rental at a Time community, but go give him a follow. He's trying to build up his subscriber count, but he has pivoted. He's gone kind of really into Bitcoin. So he's done the house hack. He's done ADU in California. He's a teacher, basketball coach out there. But he's pivoted. He sold some rentals. He's gone all in on Bitcoin. Um, Adam, do you invest in other asset classes? And maybe do you think people like Jeremy's point, like the younger generation, maybe they've just given up on housing? They're putting all their money or disposable income into Bitcoin or these other asset classes out there.
I dollar cost average in the stock market. I buy index funds and I also buy Bitcoin, but I only do a little bit of Bitcoin. And I just do a little bit. I still have a rollover 401k from my job I had too. So, I mean, I have money from that. But I still think it's good to diversify. It's way easy to buy index funds. I still think that's working. I think a lot of people buy that instead of getting into real estate because you hear so many horror stories that I have friends and stuff. They don't want to get into real estate just because they're nervous about tenants not paying the rent and stuff. They don't even want to get started. And I mean, you kind of have to have a stomach for this. And even though it is like quote unquote passive, it's definitely not passive. I mean, even if you have a property manager, you still have stuff to deal with and headaches and stress and things to think about all the time. So I don't know. I mean, it is helpful and better to be diversifying.
Yeah, I think to your point though, it's so easy to invest it in, ETFs and the stock market, right? You just bring up your phone out, buy this, right? Or, Bitcoin. So I think that could be some of the dynamics where there's a lot of money going to these other asset classes. Because like you're saying, right, people, they don't want to be.
Yeah, I started kind of getting so like doing it right now. I've got some some cash that's kind of
Let's
sitting
see,
on the
Nick
sideline.
says, what was that?
Go ahead.
Sorry, what was that, Tony?
I said, go ahead. I'm sorry about
Oh,
that.
no. Yeah. So yeah, it looks like I lost connection real quick. But yeah, anything else you guys want to touch on? What you're working on? I mean, let's go with Tony first then. What can people help you with? I mean, what do you got on the horizon? How do you want to finish up 2025?
Again, I'm staying kind of hyper focused on the affordable housing. I had started kind of looking into as I've got some money that's kind of sitting on the sidelines right now. Started kind of looking into like some real estate REITs and kind of getting into the self-directed ramifications. So I started us doing the self-directed IRAs and kind of looking into those a little bit more as my ultimate goal is to do some private money, be some private money lender down the road once I kind of retire. So that's the main focus is me just trying to stay focused. I am reading Dion's book, which has been pretty amazing right now. Just I like Dion a lot. He kind of relates pretty heavy. So for me, hyper focus right now, staying true to what I'm doing, and if I need to pivot. But trying to get away from the shiny object syndrome. I'm pretty bad at it. I know I am. Obviously, with some of my online stuff, I kind of got still pretty heavy into my my gym online business has been doing. Doing good for me, better than I could ever expect. I could definitely see how people get into like the online courses and all that stuff. I did a course, a year and a half ago, and I still got, people buying that online, youth speed and agility course. So kind of doing a little bit more of that. I've got some free time. It's pretty cool once you get, I'm sure you guys know, once you get those properties stabilized and not, in that daily grind of, rehab day after day. I've got, some stabilization now. I've got a little free time and I'm like, man, this is kind of cool. I don't really like how much time I have, but I'm like, this is kind of cool, not stressing out crazy amount. But that's kind of my focus right now, and I'll continue going down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know what I did with that link, but like Tony was mentioning, he does have another Instagram page with his business, the strength and agility coaching. So once I find that, go check that out. But also, like he did mention Dion's book, the Lazy Investor book. It's already a top seller on Amazon. So there's the Amazon link there. Go check it out. Watch out, there's a lot of scammers out there. So there's some AI generated copies of the book, and people are trying to scam people to purchase that copy. But go check it out. And Hugo, stay winnings here. What's up, man? And like Hugo, I don't know if you're still going to be in Vegas for the ORAD event, but as I mentioned earlier, Pace Morby is speaking. Also, Jason Hartman. They have their own big community. So I think once people start finding out they'll be speaking there, the tickets are going to sell out pretty quickly. So Adam, I mean, like I said, there's a first time on. It was good to have you on. Hopefully
Yeah,
you
thank
had fun.
you.
You'll do it again. But what are you working on then? I guess the rest of 2025. And yeah, what's your plans there?
I'd like to acquire a few more properties. I'm working on that. I like mixed use buildings. I'm like working on trying to buy some commercial properties. Been trying to work with some lenders on that. I'm working on commercial financing because I see an opportunity there. I like how you can do a cash out refinance based on a cap rate. So I'm like working on something like that, but I just working on my financing with that. And I just want to keep being a real estate agent, trying to serve my clients. I really try and focus on listings, and I know I get buyers from listings. I just want to keep helping my buyers and my sellers out.
All right, Jeremy.
Thanks for having me.
No, man. I was like I said, I was kind of shocked. Jeremy recommended another competitive team in Deacon Hoover, but like I said, there's a lot of business out there, right? There's a lot of opportunities, and it's too much for as much as great as Jeremy folks are, Jeremy and Liam. I mean, they can't handle all the business, and the more resources I can provide to my audience, I think the better it'll be, right? Like Jeremy said, you guys have different contractors, different groups of people you work with, so I think it'll be beneficial for everyone involved. But Jeremy, so what are you looking at ending 2025, or what do you got on your plate right now?
Big thing for us is trying to find a primary residence. So I think it's a good time to be looking for that, the forever home, so to speak. So we've been throwing some low offers out, and we got a few sitting there. Have had some agents come back and try to negotiate. So I think taking advantage of the low point in the market. So I've just been kind of stacking money for the down payment for that, and then I've been doing some more private loans out of my self-directed retirement account.
Nice,
So getting
nice.
into more passive. I as far as projects, outside of the rental turnovers that need renovated as tenants move out, I'm trying to just keep it maybe one at a time. I just have one rehab going on now as far as like bird deals. So if I'm going to buy anything more, a new acquisition, it's probably going to either be something that's what I would consider a trophy property, like something that I would buy and then sell one of my cheaper ones. So I'm not really looking to actively add units, but maybe keep the unit count the same, prune the portfolio. So if an opportunity comes up like that, like the project I'm doing now, I wasn't really looking to buy something, but it was just a really good deal in an A-class neighborhood that I like, that I couldn't really not buy it. So that's kind of where I'm at on the buy side, just more focused on just trying to get a prime area and making things more passive. And then my existing portfolio, just maintaining that, making sure the properties are running well and letting the loans get paid down and whatnot, and going from there.
So house hacking is done. Can we say that is officially off the table for you from now on?
Yeah, the primaries we're looking at, though, we want something with like an in-law suite or a ADU that we could utilize. So potentially house hacking long term. We'll see what we can find from that.
Yeah, before we wrap things up, I know Jeremy's always given us a great breakdown of kind of the different zip codes, different boroughs in Pittsburgh. Adam, quickly, is there maybe an area that's kind of your favorite area in Pittsburgh, and maybe an area that you also just will not invest in?
I really like the 15210 zip code. That's the South Hills. I live in the South Side, and it's on the map. It's right below that. It's Carrick and Beltsuver, Bon Air, just around there. That's really what I like. I don't know if there's any area I wouldn't completely not invest in, but
Homewood?
I guess it would have to be close to my house.
Would you buy in Homewood?
Sorry,
Jeremy likes to say Homewood.
Would you buy in Homewood?
I would not buy in Homewood probably. It takes so long to drive over there, and it's like in the center of the city, and there's just always traffic.
Yeah, the East End can
And
be
it's just
rough.
not my part of town. Actually, it's in South Hills. Yeah, so
All right. Well, this was a fun one.
I gotta go places my contractors will go.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Thank you.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Jeremy, we'll have Jack connect with you. I guess, like I said, he hasn't reached out to you yet, but that event is moving forward, September 5th.
That's coming soon.
Yeah. So last one, Jen. Jen was thinking about Bitcoin because Nick's been on the channel. Yeah, Nick, like I said, he's gone all in. His YouTube channel is growing, so go check him out. Like he likes to, like he said, if you have some real estate rentals, maybe use the cash flow from one of the properties and just focus that cash flow to invest monthly in Bitcoin. Tony, hopefully see you in Vegas, or even like I said, I'll give you more information about the Pittsburgh event coming up in September. And yeah, everyone, thanks for tuning in, and we'll get everyone back together again at some point. But Adam, thanks for doing this, man. All right, everyone.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.